So we pretty much covered most of our news, right? But I want to ask the question here. And this is something that Justin and I talked about on the stream last night. And everyone's going to be different in how they approach this. I want to show a really good example of a collection that looks, I've not heard of this collector, but I just looked up a Star Wars collection. And this collection looks really, really good, right? It's all Star Wars stuff. It's detailed stuff. It's super clean. It's organized. It's great. Justin was giving some advice last night saying, what do you recommend to people who blah, 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 like have, issues with space and XYZ? And there's always advice thrown out there. And I think I've given this advice maybe sometimes too, like at least earlier, where I've said, maybe stick to one IP to start, maybe one IP, and that's how you get started. So you can feel organized and not cluttered. And, you can really feel good about your collecting. I'm wondering, Kiko, is sticking to one IP bad advice? Everyone's going to collect differently, but I'm just wondering, does the diversity of a collection make it a little more appealing to you to keep your brain fresh and working on different things and also appealing to other people who might also enjoy your collection? How do you approach this complex topic? Because I think a lot of collectors wrestle with this. Do I go into this other IP I love because I love it, but also it's a rabbit hole? I might buy 5 more figures, or do I just stick in my lane and say to Star Wars? Is it bad advice to stick to one IP? What do you think?
Well, it depends on if you are a huge fan of anything else or not. I mean, if you are only a Star Wars fan, then there's no sense for you to go grab something else by any means. I mean, just to have it. But I think people like us, people that are sci-fi nerds and comic book nerds, things like that, you have multiple, things that are your favorites, whether it be Marvel and DC or DC and Star Wars or whatever it may be. There are multiple things out there. So is it bad to stick to it? Depends on what your point is for collecting. If you want to just keep it for you and you're like, well, I just want to have Star Wars figures because that's what I grew up with, cool. But I will say that there is something beautiful about showing it off to other people. When people come in and they see a wide variety of collecting, because that's the term collecting, is that you're bringing and branching out into multiple things. And so people say, wow, look, there's Jack Sparrow. Wow, look, there's Carnage. Wow, there's Darth Vader. Wow, that's me. I hated seeing myself right there. That was creepy.
Dude, that was the hairstyle too, man.
Yeah, we've had all kinds of different. Boy, that was in December. I was super
Dude,
cold there.
You got 60K views on this one. This one did really well.
That is. But this is the picture of showing multiple IPs. It's a cool way to look at things, but if that's not your thing and you only like Star Wars, yeah, obviously don't branch into that. For me, here's the way I look at it, is that eventually that well dries up for that one IP. Right now, there's been like 5 Star Wars releases just from Hot Toys right now. Most likely that's going to go dry real soon, and they're going to start pumping out the DC and the Marvel. And so let's say that, Star Wars is your only thing. Once you've collected them all, like Pokemon, what do you do after that? Is there anything else to chase? Do you just wait? Do you just hope? And this is going to get real interesting with all these, strikes and actors guilds and all that stuff. If no movies are coming out, they're not going to be making new figures. So what are you going to do? Are they going to do reissues? Are they going to do deeper dives? A lot of stuff to get into. But if you're a collector and you're just starting, I think one IP is cool. But if you can manage it, why not? Because it's a diversity. Who doesn't want a diverse collection? I think the more diverse it is, the more entertaining it is. One of my guy that I do my podcast with, Dave, he has a cornucopia of all kinds of horror items and Star Wars items, G.I. Joe. It's everything. So when you walk in there, you can say, this guy is a nerd in general. Look at all the stuff he has. And it's not a contest to see how much stuff and shit you can accumulate. It doesn't matter about that. But I do think it shows some diversity in showing that, hey, I'm not just siloed into one thing. And I like seeing multiple IPs for me personally, but obviously to each their own.
Yeah, and everyone's going to be different because I've seen some amazing Marvel only collections. I've seen some amazing Star Wars collections. And in this photo, Kiko, this is all Marvel we're seeing right here. And it looks fantastic. Besides, I see a couple, maybe like, I think Tonto or something in there. But other than that, short of it looks like pretty much all Marvel. So yeah, I mean, this
is that the 2.0 Spider-Man down in the corner there. Look, I already got
it certainly looks like it, bro. It's exclusive that Howard Chan sent you directly. So yeah, man. And this is still a really cool collection. And again, I'm not trying to crap on anyone's collection at all. And again, I think ultimately your collection obviously is for you. It's for your own enjoyment, something that you can feel proud of, something that you can come home to and be happy about. But I also want to look at the idea of, displaying your collection in a way that I think could also sometimes make you feel proud of other things too. Like, that you have diverse interests, that you explore other things. And sometimes too, this is something I've always tried to drive home. And sometimes people miss out on amazing IPs and amazing pieces because they are so set on, I only collect one thing. I only do this one thing, and they never get to experience the other things. So you're sort of cutting yourself off from experiencing new and possibly great things because you are set on one mindset and one IP. But look, I think everyone can do, what they want to do. Again, I wanted to kind of tackle this topic because this is something that I think a lot of collectors grapple with. This is something that everyone has to think about, new collector or otherwise. Do I dive into other IPs? Do I not? Right. So to me, I think you should. I mean, don't bankrupt yourself. Don't do anything that's going to be ridiculous. Don't spend more money than your budget allows. But I do think you should try to explore some things. And if you only love Star Wars and Star Wars is your jam and that's it, then collect all Star Wars, dude. Do your thing. But to me, it's just because I have a lot of Last of Us stuff. I love Last of Us, right? But I also like to leave room for other stuff because I have other IPs that I love too. So I think it's pretty cool. Diversity is great, as is a clean collection. So, but I would say if you're telling people to collect only one IP, it's just like, well, that's kind of telling them it's like closing yourself off from the force, right? You are pretty much collecting.
Great example.
Yeah, like it's an analogy. Like you're closing yourself off from the force. You're closing yourself off from all these other forces that you might also like. It could be temptation, so it depends on your personality, but don't spend too
Imagine
much.
only
Right?
collecting Star Wars, but being a Moon Knight fan, knowing that you can't have that Moon Knight figure, even though you liked the show. I
Right.
mean, that would be a travesty.
Right. And there's mine I showed, and then there's Kiko's, and then like this collector's collection with all the Star Wars looks fantastic. It does. So yeah, it's hard. It would be hard for me to collect just one IP. I think that would be very difficult for me. But I feel like I would just be putting restraints on myself unnecessarily. But yeah,